What's up, everybody? My name's Landon. Join my conversation with Max as we talk about Explorator, a new online marketplace for outdoor enthusiasts, the problems facing the outdoor industry, and how Explorator plans to make more outdoor recreation more accessible for everybody. We did shoot this conversation outside, so as the light goes down, our faces start to turn into more of a silhouette. You can't really see them, but that's where we're comfortable, so that's where we chose to shoot this conversation. So without further ado, my conversation with Max.
So I love what you're doing, and I love explaining to my friends what you're doing, and hoping that they kind of want to jump on the Explorator bandwagon. And I do struggle with trying to explain to them what it is. So, what is Explorator?
Yeah, so Explorator is an online marketplace where anyone looking to have more outdoor experiences can connect with people who are looking to share their passions for outdoor recreation. So just like you or me, like we both have instructed and guided for a long time. My real goal and driving force behind being a ski bum for the last 10 years is like I want to share that thing that is so valuable to me with other people. It's not, like that's the driving force behind it. At least like for most individuals that I would say both of us know who are in the industry is like, well, right, most people's intentions are, okay, well, how can I share the thing that's so valuable to me that like gives me this much joy with other people? And that's really just our effort to make that more accessible for people, because there's kind of a handful of barriers that are currently in place for someone who has no experience with outdoor recreation. So right, like when they go to try something for their first time, they're met with a handful of barriers.
Yeah. And how can Explorator help eliminate these barriers?
So yeah, like some of the bigger ones are accessibility. So like just right off the bat, like the core concept of what we are is just like an online marketplace. So okay, now instead of me searching all over Google and having like 20 plus tabs open, and like, maybe someone likes being that person who's like the bargain hunter online, but I feel like most people probably aren't that person. Okay, well now everything's in one place, right? If I'm going to a resort, I can type in the name of the resort I'm going to search for guides that are applicable for my skill level at whatever activity we're doing, right? If I'm going, if I want to try rock climbing for the first time, I can look up guides in that area, and I've never done it, I'm a beginner, and I can tailor that search directly to not only my interest, but my exact skill level and needs. And then, right, whoever the guides show up, okay, well now I have options. Instead of like being on 20 different pages and realizing that half of the pages that you have open aren't even really for yourself, and you might not even figure that out, which kind of brings me to like the next major barrier, which is knowledge, right? So, I kind of just started explaining is like, okay, well, if it's my first time trying this activity, why would I know anything about it? Which is no different. Like, right, I am only okay at a few of the things that were, out of a handful of the activities on Explorator, but like something I'm really not good at all is like hunting or fishing. So if I was gonna get into fly fishing, and I just walked into a store and I was going to buy some gear, like I would just be at the mercy of whatever I saw, whatever was on sale, whoever kind of gave me some suggestion.
Yeah.
I obviously don't know whether that person is credible or not. So like same thing, like in the trip aspect of it, like, well, I don't even know, I might not know what it is I need to be, like what certifications I'm looking for in the guide that I'm going to purchase, or what trips is like realistic for my skill set. Fishing's kind of like one where, okay, like you're not in a lot of danger if you end up kind of overselling yourself, but then like bring it into something more like white water. Okay, well, if I said I was a beginner, if I said I was like pretty good at it, even though I've only done it once or twice, well, now that, now I find myself in a scenario that I shouldn't be in. So it's like that knowledge part is really important, right? And like we've seen it a bunch of times where just like sometimes it's not even people trying to like oversell their ability level. It's just they aren't informed because it's not their world, right? That's why we're the ones who do it every day. Like it's the world we live in. So just bringing that knowledge to them by having access to all the options is a really big barrier that we're also looking to approach.
Right.
I wouldn't say that it would entirely solve it. That's like because it's such a complex part of it. But at least giving people power to make the right decisions on what gear to buy, what trips to purchase, how to accurately give themselves a skill level rating, right? It's like all those things are all really important. It's the difference between like how good of an experience you have when you go on your trip, or even if it's not through a trip booked through Explorator, just when you go out on your own, outdoor outings. Well, you have the knowledge now, so you can have a better experience versus just like being stuck to whatever comes your way. And then the last major barrier is price. So
huge barrier, yeah.
Right. So that's a big one, and it affects people in a lot of different ways. So like if, let's just say, going to like a big name ski resort and purchasing like the instructors and guides that they have, if that's in your budget, well then that's great that option exists for you, but it's not in everyone's budget. So by creating more options and a marketplace is where just like each individual guide can set their own prices, and depending on what skill level or what certifications or how the duration of the trip, well, now the guide can set more affordable prices and also make a better return versus if they were working for let's just say like a bigger resort, because they can control their cost and obviously how much they're bringing in. So now the more options that are there are just going to be more affordable, right? And we aren't setting any of the prices, right? So like it's really important to understand that like the guides that are promoting themselves, and that's the right way of saying it, promoting themselves on Explorator, are their own guides. Whether they work for, let's say, a ski resort or a big, maybe like a whitewater, guide company, or they're their own individual guide on their own like LLC, whatever it is, they are acting on their own interests. So we aren't setting those prices. If they obviously if they work for a company, that company is setting the prices, those prices, and if they are running their own guide service, well then they get to make up those decisions on how they want their services to be reflected to the public. Right. And I think that's like a really big one. Is
definitely
there's so many different options and there's so many different things you can buy. Like as far as like trips go, like we're talking about 12 different activities, and we're talking about skill levels ranging from I've never done it before to I'm really, really good at this, and like I can be in very consequential extreme terrain, whatever, in all the activities. Well, like those are two very different price points.
Yeah.
But at least now there's more options, which is definitely our biggest goal here.
The guide benefits quite a bit as well from that.
Sorry, what was that?
The guide benefits quite a bit from that as well.
Definitely. So, I mean, right. There is it's nice if you want to have your own guidance service, and like for myself, like if I know what my day is worth, and I can charge what I want to charge, and it's probably less than what someone would have to pay if I still was working for like a bigger ski resort or something like that. So that's good. Like that's great that I can do that, and it's great that like now I can promote my business through Explorator, and more people can see it. Right? That gives me more, just more people and a little more traction. But it's also just as beneficial for the person who is an instructor or a guide for a company, because now they can still promote themselves without having to deal with the stress and legalities of starting your own company, because it is a big feat to do. And it's not even like one's better than the other. It's just different people want different things. If you want to start your own guiding business, but there's, other barriers that exist going down that avenue that we'll talk about later, but like, or you don't want to be that, and that's just not who you are. Like, both of those are fine. If you want to just ski every day, like, just go ski every day. Or you want to be a whatever guide or instructor you are, like, you shouldn't be forced to start your own business if you're already doing it under someone else's umbrella. But either way, it still promotes you as the individual working for them.
Yeah, which is awesome. So what makes a guide?
Yeah, so it's kind of like there's a lot of big stigma, I think, around the word guide and explorer, right?
Definitely.
So maybe I'll start with explorer real quick. Like, first thing that comes to my head, like when I just hear that word, like maybe you read it in like an article about someone, somebody in K2 or Everest, like those are, or I just recently finished a book about someone crossing Antarctica. Like, right, that's an explorer, and that's not me, right? Like, me and the guy who walks across Antarctica are two very different people.
Yeah.
However, we're both explorers. We're both looking to have new experiences.
Yeah.
And that's our definition of an explorer, right? So, yes, the guy who does that, or myself who can get into some pretty good terrain on a snowboard, or is like, but it's the same. We're both explorers, but so is the person who it's their first time hiking.
Yeah.
Right? I actually met someone recently, and they said this was their first hike ever. And I was like, that's crazy to me, but it's crazy that you have that first experience, and that was like pretty local around here. And obviously that person like lives in a city and doesn't get out of the city very much, but they were super happy on that first, and they said like, well, I'm going to do this more often now. It's so close to where I live, it's not that hard to get to. So it's like, well, that person is having new experiences.
Yeah.
That person's just as much as an explorer as I am, even though the hike that we're on isn't necessarily a challenge for me, but that was like a really big feat for her.
Yeah.
And that's just as great. Like, it shouldn't be, one's not better than the other. They're both like really powerful that you can have those new experiences. So now, like, kind of going back to, okay, well, what's a guide? Okay, and there's like that same, let's say, like, range, right? Yeah. Where, okay, there are full pin AMGA guides who have spent a lot of their life and devoted everything to getting that pin, and they can pretty much be anywhere, right? Those are the people who are, right, summiting the tallest peaks in the world and can go pretty much anywhere, right? Like, that's a guide, definitely. But so is the person who wants to help someone else have an experience they weren't able to have by themselves. So, that counts for instructors who are teaching people how to make their first ski turns or their first snowboard turns. Or maybe that person has been wanting to take that first hike for a while,
right,
but didn't, and they postponed it. But maybe if they had access to someone who would just take them on a hike and make them feel a little safer in the woods. I mean, I actually ran into like a mama bear and a cub the other day. And like, I feel okay. I mean, I'm not stoked about that scenario, but like, I know how to be calm and get out of it. Or at least I have gotten out of it. The times that it's happened is a better way of saying that. But like, if I put myself in the shoes of that girl who told me it was her first hike ever, that scenario would have been super, super scary for her.
Definitely.
But, I mean, it's equally as scary for someone who's a little more, I guess, like, seasoned, but it would have been really scary for her. So, like, just having someone who can help you have an experience that maybe you wouldn't have had yourself. And that's really what a guide is. It's not only this incredibly veteran, certified guide, although that person is clearly and obviously should be very well respected in the guiding community. It's also someone who can, help you have experiences that just might be outside of your own reach.
Yeah.
But then also help your reach be that much bigger, so that you can have that same experience without the guide. Yeah, and those are two words that were, I don't know if I want to say trying to redefine, but just trying to give more clarity to, so that they don't have these like big stigmas around them where, oh, well, that's not me because I'm not,
Right.
riding the peak, or I'm not riding class 5 rapids, or, I can't spend 3 days unsupported in the woods on a hunting trip. Like, I can't do a lot of those things, but that doesn't mean I'm not both of these user bases with the Explorer and the Guide. So yeah, just making things in the same thing, like that accessibility aspect of like, well, now not everyone falls into the Guide category, but everyone kind of falls into the Explorer category.
Definitely.
I mean, maybe outdoor recreation isn't your thing, but I mean, I feel like most people like want to try a hike or a couple of things like that. Well,
once.
now, once, twice, whatever. I think out of the 12 activities, it kind of hits most people.
Yeah.
At least everyone I know. So.
Definitely. That's awesome. So you talk about like accessibility a lot with Explorator, and I feel like the question of why isn't Explorator in the Apple store come up?
Yeah. And that's actually like an interesting way of phrasing it, or asking it in tandem behind the accessibility question.
You're like,
Okay, so sure, things would be a lot easier if we were on the Apple or the Google Play Store, right? Because everyone's familiar with both of those stores. You go on, type in Explorator, install, 2 seconds later, you have the app. Cool.
Right. I think I was trying to come at it with like a perspective of someone who's like,
who hasn't heard of it, right?
Right.
Yeah. But our reasons are valid. Okay, so what we are is called a PWA, a progressive web application, and the reasons for going that route and not being on either store is how it reflects to our users. So both stores take a cut, and it ranges from 10% to 30% of revenue. So similar marketplaces, in not just in the outdoor recreation space, like in short-term housing rentals, or gig economy tasks, whether it's in contracting or online, digital design work. Literally every other marketplace, I've yet to find anything that's been under 12% of a service fee.
No.
But most of the average is closer to 15 to 18, although some are even higher than that. So we are really dedicated to trying to keep our service fee at 6.5%. And like processing fees, credit card processing fees are half of that 6.5%. It's like we are really dedicated to trying to keep that cost as low as possible. And to make costs as low as possible, you have to be innovative and explore new technologies. And PWAs aren't brand new by any means, but they're definitely not wide scale accepted yet. But I do believe they will be in the next few years. And honestly, like, you're already using apps that are a PWA. You just haven't seen it necessarily, but it's really no different. Like, that's the thing, is it's not going to feel any different for the user. It's just not, I can't look it up on the App Store.
Right.
That's really the difference here. So, okay, well, you can find it on all our social media channels and our website, and that will take you right to a page to add it to your home screen, and it's almost just as easy, if not equally as easy. It's just something that people haven't seen before, so it's just a little different there. But you're right, it does kind of bounce against that that accessibility thing a little bit, like, 'cause that is really our goal. But the bigger goal is like, how do we make the entire outdoor recreation more accessible? And part of that is that affordability aspect of it.
Yeah. So it ties in.
And there would be no way that we could keep our service fee as low as 6.5% if we wanted to exist on either store. So definitely a major reason is that one. And then the other pretty big, like, second biggest reason would be the experience that it adds to the user. Is if we make an update to the app, or we change the layout of something, maybe there's even an issue, like a technical issue that we have to fix, the next time you open that app, it will be whatever we changed.
Yeah.
It's because it's a website, it's always live. Like that's how your phone is viewing it, as a website. It's not viewing it as an actual application. Whereas like all your other apps on your phone, you have to go and update them. This is just
personalized.
Exactly. It's just immediately there, like literally within seconds. So yeah, that is like the other major thing, is it just is a better experience as far like, because now if there's an issue and I go and fix the issue, which, well, you know, technical issues in apps all the time, and then we go and fix it real quick, well now, but then you forget to update the app, and now you're like, oh well, it just doesn't work for the next 2 weeks, even though maybe we fixed it within an hour. You're not getting that experience of a fixed product. You have a broken product on your phone. So yeah, both of those decisions are definitely in the eyes of how it affects the user.
That's cool.
Even though it does put us in a slight disadvantage in that, like, how easy it is to find us.
Yeah, but it still ties into like being accessible at the end of the day.
Definitely.
Money-wise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And how did Explorator like start? What is the origin of Explorator?
Yeah, so there's a specific day, and I can think of it. But I guess like I want to take a kind of like a wider thought of that, like look at it from a little higher up, and just talk about like why I really believe, you know, like, so right, I've been teaching snowboarding for 10 years, right? And guiding and all that, like, and just all my work's always been outside, right? Fighting wildfire, everything like that. It's always been like those outdoor experiences are really important for myself. Whether it's a day on my board or, you know, hiking to a peak that at sunrise, like that's always a thing I'm into. So if you believe that, like I really believe that those moments are so important to like all the other aspects of my life. So, you know, like how I interact with everyone else, you know, like my physical health, obviously my mental health. Like I believe there's a really big positive output in having experiences in nature. So and what I believe even more than that is that like it's my job to share those experiences with other people, to give them the tools and resources they need to be able to have the same, actually I want to change that, take that back, to help them acquire the same tools and resources they need to have the same experiences that I'm fortunate enough to have. Because not everyone has those right now, right? They do need help to develop them. So that they can have that same positive impact on the other aspects of their life, because it's not just like, oh, sick, I got to, you know, this peak and I took a picture and that's nice and it is really enjoyable and like that's a great moment, but like that moment falls into like almost everything else in your life, especially if you like really love this. So right, like, you know, been teaching now, and there's things I like about everything and there's things I don't like about everything, and like no matter what field you're in, if you believe your job is having a significant positive impact on the people that it directly touches, you're going to look for ways for it to be better, right? You're going to look at yourself and say, well, how can I improve myself and put a better, in this scenario, like product out, right? So like for us, it's always been like lessons or a better experience. How can I give a better experience to the people who I'm directly interacting with so that they can have the same impact that it has on me, like that outdoor recreation has on me, right? So like it's this really powerful thing, and okay, so then like that makes me become the person who's like, okay, well, I'm just always gonna analyze every single lesson. Afterwards I'm gonna like figure out what was good about it and that I want to do again, or like what did I not like that I did? How can I make it better? What rules can we kind of pretend that we didn't hear to make it a better experience for the guests? Like how can we have the biggest positive impact on that experience? So okay, I'll kind of like zoom back in now. So being that person, believing all those things, Peter was out visiting me in Big Sky, and you know, like we rode for the day, and that was a great day. And then afterwards, you know, kind of just talking after the day at night, and it's like, well, how can we make that experience, because like he was lucky in that scenario. He's my friend. He was able to fly out, stayed with me. He was able to ride for free. He was able to have this experience with me for free because we're friends. But like, how would you be able to have this experience if you didn't have that already established connection?
Right.
And that, without that established connection, well, that same experience either becomes very expensive, or it literally just doesn't exist, because if you can't afford if you can't afford it, then it's just like almost not there.
Yeah.
There's a few other kind of options, but then you ties back into that knowledge part. You would have to have a lot of industry knowledge to find the cheaper options.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now the scenario like almost doesn't exist for him to even be there if we didn't have that same thing. So that led to the question of, you know, that previous version of me believing there's such a positive impact. That led to the version, like, to this conversation of one of us asking, well, or no, me asking, like, how can this be more accessible for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think him, like, eventually coming up with the idea of, like, well, what if it's online? And that's like really like the basis of the idea there is like, well, everything just has to be right at your fingertips.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it came through having a very big passion and drive to share those experiences with other people. And that's like both what me and Pete do is, you know, give those experiences to other people, but now we just want to be able to give that to more.
Yeah.
So make that more accessible.
Which is awesome. I've been in the outdoor industry for 10 plus years as well, and
Yeah, I think you have time on me actually.
Yeah, but I have some questions as like someone who is definitely interested in doing something like this. And I guess a big thing would be like, how could I protect myself, and how would Explorator help me with?
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm assuming like you're talking about like, okay, now you want to start your own, you know, guiding company and list yourself on Explorator. Okay, well, okay, to do that legally, there's some barriers to get involved there, right? We have to talk about insurance. We have to talk about forming your business, right? And so as far as protecting the guides, and let's just take like one step back there real quick. You know, we previously talked about like, well, the guides are their own thing, whether if let's say they work for a resort or an outfitter, well, then they're under the umbrella of that outfitter, or if they're their own individual guide, like it's their responsibility to follow state, local, federal laws and operate on the right rules or on the right land. Okay, but right now we did just talk about like a handful of things that are kind of hard to know all the answers to, and that you do want, you know, the right insurance for. But it's like, you know, so I'm going to keep it kind of on this like big 10,000 foot view for a second. So we're talking about, okay, well, we want to make outdoor recreation more accessible for everyone. Okay, so that's not just the person who wants to try kiteboarding for the first time, right? It's also the already established person who wants to share that passion with someone else. So how do we not only give power to the person who wants, give avenues and options for the person who wants to try it, but how do we give avenues and options to the person who's looking to make this their business? Or, I don't like that word anyway, how do you get that person to have more options to share their passion? Because that's really what it is. Okay, so you have to support both sides, which means making partnerships with insurance companies that are specifically tailored to small businesses, and making partnerships with there's a couple of businesses that like help you form your business, and we have those in the works. We have links directly on Explorator. There's a guide resource page where they can go right over to the insurance provider that we recommend, definitely not necessary, or like not us saying like this is the only person you can have, but just someone who we recommend. We've worked with them before, And we honestly think that they're giving a good option for people in this position of who's trying to have a small business. Maybe it's not even full time. Maybe you're just trying to do this once a week, once a month. You might have a regular 9 to 5, and this is just how you get to share, your love for, let's say, mountain biking now, like with someone else. Okay, so you only want to do it once, 2, 3 times a month. Okay, but you want to make sure you're protected. So, okay, this is someone who, these guys are kind of tailored towards that business model of like it being pretty small, right? And then at the same time, right, like there's the link to, okay, well, here's all the resources that I would need, and, even tutorials and all that to help you form whatever business structure you're looking to form.
Yeah.
There's a handful of options there, and, we're not looking to give advice on that, but like at least the options are there for you to inform yourself.
Yeah.
And make the decision for, how do I need to structure myself? Or maybe all that's way too big of a hurdle for me, and I'm just going to stay under the umbrella of the guide outfitter I currently work for, but at least now I can still promote myself through Explorator and get more requests. And, I can tell people who I am, and they can find me, and then, of course, they come to ride with me, even if it's not through my own specific guiding company. So, right, like empowering the entire ecosystem is really important, and not just giving more accessibility to, right, the explorer, right, anyone who's looking to participate. Like you need to give just as much power and boast up the guiding or the demand side of our marketplace. Otherwise, we're missing like a pretty, we would fail to deliver our mission of like making outdoor recreation more accessible for everyone if we were ignoring the other side of this. And it's not like the other half. It's only like probably a quarter of, or probably even less than that, of the amount of total people. But like, well, if they're not doing, like, if they don't have the resources, well, then these people don't have options. So,
right.
It's like really focused on giving some power to individuals there on both sides there.
Cool. Okay, that definitely like would answer a lot of my questions and concerns going into it.
And that's the thing, is like it's always just information. Like we want to give people options, but we're definitely not like, like I said, that like the insurance option that we listed, like, like we might have a discount code with them for you, but like you can have whoever you want.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't work best.
Exactly. It's your business. You need to make those choices. And even if it's not your business, it's you running your, let's call it like brand through someone else's, right? That. And like being like, you've seen that a lot in like the ski industry, is like, well, you make a lot more money when people like come to ride with you or ski with you, whatever, right? And it's worth your time, and you can afford to do it when people are coming to ride with you. So, it's definitely goal is making this not like a job that you should only do until you're 25.
Right. Yeah.
Or like you did it through college. Well, no, you're passionate about it. You should do it forever.
And share it with people. Yeah.
Definitely.
Are you doing one shot for this? No. So then what does personalized exploration mean to Explorator?
Okay, so like everything has this like whole bigger view behind it, because it's always myself or Pete coming up with these ideas from these like kind of crazy ideas. But so there's 12 different activities listed on Explorator, and like we're really important, like they're really devoted to offering options anywhere from I've never tried X activity to expert. So okay, so the best way of doing that is like an example. So like I'm, whatever activity I'm looking to give, to guide in, like I do a lot of like pretty long hiking trips, but like I'm also a relatively okay cook, so maybe for me, like I would want to do, or this is something I do want to do, it's like multi-day backpacking trip. It's low miles in relevance to the amount of days, but we're going to eat gourmet meals, or at least what I can pull off on the trail.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoy cooking over fire. So it's like we're not going to bring MREs out, and we're not, or Mountain House, and we're not going to cook over a jet boil. Like, provided that we're in the right area, we're going to cook over fire, and we're going to eat like we're eating good for a few days. And like that's just my example. Right. It's my own little personal thing. But like I really do love sharing meals with people, and okay, we can go on a multi-day hiking trip and we can get all those great peaks and those sunrises and sunsets that we were looking to have, and that like type 2 fun along the way. But then let's also, like, when we sit down to have some sort of like meal, well, yeah, I'm sick of eating beef jerky.
Yeah,
I've eaten enough, like back when I was fighting wildfire, like just eating like, I don't know, I would say like a squirrel. Like, you just eat garbage, and I hate it. I hated it so much. Like, that aspect of it, of just like always eating snacks and like junk food when you're hiking all day or working all day, is like, I don't know. Yeah. We could sit down, like, especially when we're like by a lake or a river, like let's catch some fish, and let's have a meal that's like worth talking about. So yeah. Right, that's just my example of things. It's like personalized exploration is whatever it means to that guide.
Yeah.
It's not our definition of it. It's you make it up, right? We want it to fit within our activities. We're not, if it was just a cooking class, well, okay, well, that doesn't really fit on our platform. But how can you give an experience that's incredibly unique and or personalized to the person you're connecting with? Because now that experience that you had outside and you made it, could be something else. It doesn't have to be the cooking thing, but like you made it really personalized to that person, well, they're not going to forget that, and they're probably going to come back to you and ride with you again, or go hiking with you again, or whatever it is. And if not, they're going to tell everyone else who's looking to have a similar experience to come ride with you.
Right.
Because right, you delivered more than just a day on the mountain, or you delivered them a really life-changing moment.
Yeah.
And that's what like all outdoor recreation is for me, or at least that's always what I'm striving for. Maybe it would be a better way of saying that. So yeah, it's like more people need to have that, and then like in the process of more people having that, it's just like, okay, well, you love it so much more. It's not just like something you do on your weekends now. It's a part of you, right?
Yeah.
And that translates into all those other, like the idea of like, okay, well, it's your physical and mental, and how you interact with the person you're passing at work. So yeah, kind of a lot of greater thoughts all intertwined here.
Definitely. I love that. So speaking of personalized experience, what is the threshold of emotion?
Yeah, let's definitely go hand in hand. So we were talking about like skill level, right? Mm-hmm. And people sometimes will overestimate their ability on certain things. Like, I mean, like, not just people who are going to be taught or be guided. The guides will do that too. Like anyone will do that. That's just like an inherent egotistical thing that pretty much everyone does. And the only way to not do it, I feel like, is to be incredibly knowledgeable in that craft. So like, I'm not going to overestimate my snowboarding ability, but that's because I have a very high knowledge and I know how to actually gauge myself, but only in that thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and then if I was going to tell you like how good I am at whitewatering, I'd probably oversell myself.
Yeah.
Like, because I've done it and I've been in some hairy scenarios.
You made it through,
but really, was I good or did I just get out? You know, like, and I don't know. It's just like kind of my own personal example there, but like, I don't know enough about like almost every other activity on the platform, maybe like hiking too, but like to give like this incredibly high level depiction of like where I'm at, right? So, but we all do that though.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so, right. Recently, or not recently, but last winter, I was riding with a family that I ride with a ton. Been riding with for a handful of years, and every time they come to town, they, you know, we spend at least a couple days together, and they're great. Like the kids, who are like in college and all, but they rip the whole mountain. It's great, pretty high level. And the mom's been recently, over the last like 3-ish years, been looking to get into snowboarding, although she like has been a skier her whole life, right? Mm-hmm. And that's been going well. And I actually didn't even know that she was getting into it. I remember like me and her son were riding down, and we just like came across her on like a pretty easy run, like a green run, but she was making great turns. And I was like, oh, like I didn't even know you were trying to learn. And I told him to like go take a lap, and I spent a couple runs with her, just working on her form, and like, you know, she just starts lighting up over it, right?
Yeah.
And again, like we're on a green run, we're on a easy run, right? And that was like 2 years ago. Right? So now fast forward a little bit to like sometime last year at the end of the season. Okay, now we're trying like a pretty easy green, or not green, but a pretty easy section of trees. And you know, they're gladed, there's options, it's not tight. But this isn't really something that she would normally do on her skis, you know, because not everyone's looking to put themselves in a scenario where they're scared, right? Or feel challenged like that. So we get through it, and she did great. Honestly, she did really good. And I remember at the end of it, her saying repeatedly, like really, really happy about how she did. She said, I never thought in a million years that I could have ridden that. In a million years, I didn't think that I would have ridden through that. And then she said, and it was on my board. It was on my snowboard, and it wasn't on my skis, you know? And, you know, it's like one example of a lot. Honestly, like very fortunate to have had that similar scenario happen a countless amount of times. But that's just like one that's very iconic that sticks with me. And so, right, like that was easier terrain. And okay, like now we're talking about snowboarding. Like, okay, like that's something that I can ride a fair amount, like most places, and I can mitigate consequences in high consequential terrain, and I understand how snowpacks work, and like that's something that I've devoted a ton of my life towards to being good at, right? So that I can share it with someone else, right? It's like we're riding very, very different terrain, and you know, like when I can get through, when I can successfully like ride a high consequential chute and slip through and, you know, like make it to the end of that, and like, you know, sometimes snow starts moving and like rocks or whatever, like that's, you know, things are up there, right? And the skill level needs to be compatible with the consequences that you're setting for yourself. Okay, and like I make it through and I understand what's going on, you know, like whatever, I make it through, and like that feeling, it's up there, you know, like that's what we're talking about. We keep talking about like life-defining moments, right? We keep talking about moments that are like, you know, you're, even right now I'm talking about like you start screaming, you speak fast, right? Like you're in it. That's the moment you worked for. And if it's something you've been putting 10 plus, you know, I think for both of us, like closer to 20 years worth of your life to devoting towards it, like, okay, now it's like really, really valuable. But now backtrack to her. She had the same feeling. Like she never thought in a million years that was the big thing that she didn't think that she could have done, and now she did it. Yeah. Right? So just because we're riding very different terrain and our consequences are very different, although you can get hurt there, you know, it's definitely a possibility. That did not change the same feeling that we got to have, right? So that emotion that we were able to take from the activity we're doing is equal, even though our skill level and the terrain we're riding is not, right? It is, like we still have access to this incredibly deep pocket of feelings and experiences that we get to have outside. And then like the other part of that is like, well, okay, you never thought that was in your ability, like in your scope of possibilities, and it is, and this is, we just keep talking about snowboarding, like this is something that has a fear level, has like an amount of fear involved, has a skill level threshold, like just something you have to work on it, right? Like it's not just like completely easy, like shit that's working on it. So now that thing that you didn't think was in your scope of possibilities happened, you achieved it. Okay, well, now how many other things in your life are achievable, or at the very least approachable, because you accomplished this thing that wasn't on the radar at all and has these like bigger barriers involved. Okay, well, like now you start looking at different aspects of your career or your family or your relationships, and I believe all those things, that it affects everything. It doesn't just affect the individual moment. It's like how you experience and work towards all the other things you're working towards in life. And yeah, like that is like, that's why we're doing all this, because those moments are powerful enough, and they shouldn't be that hard to get.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that story that you tell.
Yeah, and again, like I have other ones, but that one just like really burns into my head, and
like I know exactly the emotions you were like going through and like seeing, and I love that. So obviously I've worked at resorts, and I do work at resorts, and mainly the people I would be talking to about Explorator would be somebody working at a resort, or with a company. Sorry. And their biggest question would probably be, how could they work for Explorator? Well, or work with Explorator while working at a resort.
Yeah. Okay. So I kept talking about how like an individual instructor or guide can promote themselves while working through a resort. So, one of our features on Explorator is a spot where you can add the resort you work for, whether it's like a ski resort or a mountain bike park or like a guide outfit or whatever it is, and you can add a link directly to their booking page. And as all guides listening to this know, when someone puts your name, when they go to book that lesson and they say your name, there's more money in your pocket, and you create more relationships. So there's, so kind of like giving you an idea on like what everything looks like on Explorator is like, okay, well, you show up, or you first like download it, or you go to the website, and okay, well, you're met with this like pretty big photo sharing aspect right on the front page, and like that's just for inspiration, right? Like right now, the other way to get that inspiration is through like other social media platforms. Like but we don't want you to just be scrolling forever. There's no unrelated content. It's only outdoor recreation content, and there's no ads or algorithms. It's just the most recent 100 posts of people hiking, people skiing, people snowboarding, people whitewater rafting, people hunting, whatever it is. Everything inside our activities. And at the bottom of 100, it's going to tell you to go outside. Like, our goal is not to keep you there. Our goal is to inspire you to go outside. So that inspiration's there. And then, okay, I see this awesome post of, I don't know, this guy surfing on a break, and I can't find it when I look for it myself. I have like an idea on where he's located, but I can't find it myself, right? And I click on his profile, and it's his guide profile, and you're met with a video of the guide introducing themselves and kind of giving them an explanation of who they are, right? The type of riding or fishing or guiding or whatever the activity is that they like to do, and the trips they offer. And then now, let's say it was still inside of a resort or some sort of outfitter. Well, now there's a link for you to book that person, that guide. Because I already know that I like what they're riding. I already know that, like, I've been able to see a video of them, a little intro. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm going to get along. Instead of just like, okay, well, I purchased a trip and I showed up and I have no idea who my guide is, and I kind of maybe don't like him or her. Like that happens. I've had that happen. Even myself, I've had people not really mesh with me too well. And that's fine, So, right, that just gives the options to people who are working under any other business umbrella.
Cool.
Might have to cut it there.
Yeah, I think that's like it.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Max. If outdoor recreation is a passion of yours and you want to check out Explorator, the link will be down below in the description. Thanks for watching. My name's Landon. I'll see you next time.